It's Monday, that means it's Setup Monday. Wanted to talk about what's going on with BTC versus alts because Bitcoin is surging. Bit of a about face compared to the previous few months. If we look at a controversial metric like Bitcoin Dominance, which for TradingView, I believe takes Bitcoin and divides it by the next 100 altcoins in market cap. So as it is, the denominator is filled with some questionable stuff, but let's just ignore that. And we say, you know what? If Bitcoin Dominance is below the 200-day moving average, the red fill there, then alts will outperform. If Bitcoin is above that moving average, historically, Bitcoin has outperformed altcoins. Currently, we're seeing that Bitcoin is above the 200-day moving average, as well as a bullish 50-200 cross on the Bitcoin Dominance. It's also questionable whether TA is even super effective with Bitcoin Dominance, but I think the backtesting is good enough to where you can say, yeah, it probably makes sense in that it can inform trading decisions or influence trading decisions as far as being in Bitcoin or being more exposed to altcoins. Something else that isn't necessarily intuitive here, but maybe just for some people, in general, you want to start increasing your altcoin exposure at peaks of Bitcoin Dominance and decreasing your altcoin exposure at nadirs of Bitcoin Dominance. So when Bitcoin Dominance was double bottoming or inverse head and shouldering, then you could have said to yourself, all right, it's probably time to roll out of DeFi, roll out of altcoins, that sort of thing. You could have said something similar to that up here, and it ended up not being the case as far as what actually happened. Bit of a fake out breakout up here. This does not look like a fake out breakout here. We're seeing multiple weeks with Bitcoin Dominance above the 200-day moving average. It's looking a lot like 2018, 2019 situation here. And if we look at these alts, the high cap alts, one by one on the BTC pairs, which is what I'm about to do, you can say to yourself, if you're not exposed to those yet, perhaps looking at them over the next few weeks and months is a decent setup to watch if you're exposed to Bitcoin. Because there will be rotation, as much as that saddens my soul. Rotation out of BTC into altcoins is inevitable. It always happens. It happens with any sector rotation. We're seeing it from tech to non-tech stocks, for example, right now in traditional markets. But once a certain sector is up 50 to 100%, you'll see rotation inevitably into a different sector. Just as we saw sector rotation from DeFi to Bitcoin, for example. We're going to see sector rotation from Bitcoin to altcoins or DeFi eventually. I don't know when, obviously, but this will help gauge it for you. At least it'll help gauge it for me. As I'm thinking, okay, do I get into XRP BTC? I'm never trading this anyway, but I'm just for completeness purposes, I'm looking at all of these. This obviously looks, on trend metrics, mega bearish, has looked mega bearish since 2018, right? So these are going to be on the 3-day chart. Poloniex, lots of data for this specific exchange. You can always use an index if you want. But it's been nothing but down. If it's below the cloud, it's bearish. If it's above the cloud, it's bullish. And there's just been no hope at all since 2018 as far as any signs of bullish trend. It's even reconsolidated in a bearish way and is really ready for more down. The question is obviously, is this enough to where people are going to start rotating into XRP over BTC? I don't necessarily think so. I think BTC strength is super strong right now. And I don't think the smart money cares about altcoins. I think retail will care about altcoins because of integer bias. If you can buy 10,000 XRP instead of 0.2 BTC, some people are going to take that bait, right? Not knowing what they're trading. So obviously bearish. LTC is another one, just shredded apart since 2018, mid-2018. LTC BTC has just dove in a really dramatic way. You can even draw this massive falling wedge on this, multi-year falling wedge. You can see it had this head and shoulders, and it broke down from that, and it's just straight down from there. But at some point, historically, LTC has these moments, these weeks, where it just recovers all of it very quickly. Being able to catch that bottom is obviously the key. So there are clearly people who are already expecting that mean reversion to some degree and are beginning to rotate in, not necessarily knife catching here, but just dipping their toe, I'd assume. I'm not one of them. Here's a really great Adam and Eve, by the way. Man, what a textbook VU. That's kind of what I'd like to see here. I don't know what pattern this could morph into. Maybe an inverted head and shoulders with a neckline at around 0057, and then we'll get a Kumo breakout from there. Maybe this is just the garden variety falling wedge with bullish divergence that eventually just runs out of bearish momentum. But it's definitely worth keeping an eye on and watching levels, I think, over the next few weeks. Cardano, again, not something I really trade ever. It's down a large percent since the past few months. High time frame technicals are extremely bearish, but as it approaches the previous consolidation zone, you're going to see some people say, all right, this looks okay. You know, it might be at 380 sats, but historically in 2019, that was the bottom. And for some people, that's going to be good enough. EOS, even more dramatic than LTC, just getting absolutely crushed on high time frame metrics. We've had one bearish reconsolidation, two bearish reconsolidations on the 3-day. So there's just been no hope. You know, it's mean reverted, denied, mean reverted, denied, and it's looking like it's headed for all-time lows. RSI is currently 20 or lower, which isn't something that I'd want to short, and definitely something I'd want to look to start accumulating potentially. Again, this is very difficult because the strength of BTC looks phenomenal right now, but there will inevitably be rotation into this garbage junk stuff, especially something that's just been pummeled since 2018. This will have its day in the sun eventually. At the very least, I think a 2x from 1500 sats is reasonable. Anything beyond that, I'm not so sure, but I think a 2x from there looks decent. Tron, I don't know a starker chart of bearish denial than this right now. Tron BTC has gone from over 320 sats to almost all-time lows on the Binance chart here at around 150 sats extremely quickly. So it's hard for this path to maintain unless there's something fundamentally wrong with Tron, some inflation bug or something. I don't know. Who knows? It's Tron. Anything can happen. It's a complete garbage coin. But technically, based on technicals, this trajectory just isn't sustainable. Just as any upwards trajectory isn't sustainable. Eventually momentum will subside and buyers will start to step in. Maybe it's at 120 sats. Maybe it's at 100 sats even. There's probably some bids there right now for somebody. You have to look at the order books. But this will want to bounce eventually. You know, it looks ugly. But if these are setups to watch for, this is one of them. You know, if you're coin agnostic and just looking for setups, I'd keep an eye on that. Monero as well, just absolutely pummeled over the past few weeks on the BTC pair. And this is a coin that has amazing fundamentals, a community. Like it's nothing like Tron. You know, it's night and day really, but doesn't matter. It's an altcoin, right? So I think there's another setup here. There's a lot of support at 0065 or something like that. That range. Definitely something to watch. This is something that I will probably personally be rotating into, dependent on how this looks over the next 2 weeks. But you can see Monero also was pummeled extremely hard from 2018 to 2020 and finally had a bit of a moment before BTC took all the sunshine away. Tezos as well, absolutely destroyed. We'll probably start to see support at these previous lows here. It's really liked these Adam and Eve type double bottoms in this range at around 10k sats. I would expect similar again. It's at around 3k sats right now. It's got a little ways to go, but you can just see how far away it is from everything on the 3-day. Just how quickly this just collapsed into nothingness. So I do like it at 10k sats. I really do. 10k sats are lower. It looks decent. I mean, look at this RSI. Again, this RSI, stuff like this, it can surge below 30. It can hold below 30 just as it can hold above 70 for a long period of time. But it's not sustainable in general over multiple months. Usually there's some sort of rotation eventually. You know, eventually it just gets too cheap and Bitcoin gets too expensive, right? As with any alt or any sector rotation. Zcash as well, just ever since inception, been destroyed, right? They've got some fundamental halving stuff coming up. We'll see if that plays any factor at all in this. But again, it's double bottoming at the previous lows. I would wait for a bullish divergence. So from late 2019 to early 2020, there was this massive bullish divergence that was forecasting mean reversion or some just end of the bear, right? Just getting lower, grinding lower lows on less and less momentum for months. So that's might be what we see here leading into 2021. I would watch for that. And lastly, Doge, almost at all-time lows based on closes, weekly closes, maybe not actual all-time lows, but weekly closes. I think the all-time lows are around 15, 16 sats. It's at 17 right now. It's going to be super interesting to see what happens below 16 because a lot of people are probably just bidding 16 because it's the all-time low, right? So if those people get spooked and they sell below 16, price is going to just spike down real quick. That's something else you can watch for, is these capitulatory spikes of fear when people realize they're underwater in a big way, and then that just pushes the market really quickly in one direction. Again, this RSI is extremely low historically. Doesn't necessarily hold this low historically, so definitely something to watch. All these altcoins, fundamentally aren't great in their own way compared to Bitcoin, but that doesn't mean you can't trade them to make more Bitcoin, obviously, which is what most people end up doing anyway. So definitely watch these and others as Bitcoin dominance starts to surge. Another thing you could do is measure these surges, measure their duration, get some estimates as far as how far into 2021 do we expect Bitcoin dominance to continue, just to give a clue as to when to start to look for some hard bottoms in some of these altcoins.